Okay, I thought I'd send you a video to explain Grayson's stuff, and then I think I have a cancellation later this morning that if you want to call me, we can go over it on the phone. But his knee hurts, so here's my leg, okay? Foot and ankle, knee, pelvis and hip. So at your foot, which I'll get the small model, at your foot, when your body hits the ground, okay, if I'm in a squat, if I'm in a walk, if I'm in a change direction, if I'm in a sprint, what happens is my foot hits the ground, everything collapses, everything rotates in. That foot collapse and rotation in turns on your hip. So that internal rotation takes my butt muscle and winds it up like a big rubber band so that then I can explode to run, jump, or sprint. So he has kind of a stuck, gunky foot. This joint doesn't glide very well. This joint doesn't glide very well. So when he lands, we don't get that good internal rotation that helps turn on your hip, and we don't get that good internal rotation that helps absorb shock. Okay, so then the shock or the stress has to go somewhere, so it goes up. So it goes up to your knee, and then it goes up to your hip. His hip, he's had an avulsion fracture. So when I've had an avulsion fracture, okay, so here's my leg. Here's, oh, this guy is struggling this morning. Here's my pelvis, okay, so that avulsion fracture happens off the edge of your pelvis, and that muscle attaches here. Okay, the muscle that you get the avulsion fracture off is a part of your psoas or your hip flexor. That muscle controls how far does my leg get behind me when I sprint, how well does my arm get overhead when I reach, how easily can I side bend in the other direction because it has to let go. And then that muscle also controls how fast, when my leg hits the ground, does everything rotate in. Okay, so remember from the bottom half of us, when my foot was mobile and it hit the ground, everything rotated in, that turned on my hip and made me explosive. So at the top, if that avulsion fracture, like that hip flexor running right near that, if that gets sticky and doesn't rotate in well, we have to absorb the shock someplace else. So now we talk about Grayson's knee. My knee is this poor dumb joint stuck between my hip and my foot, and it's trying to make my hip happy and my foot happy. If we look at Grayson, his foot and ankle is not as mobile as we want it to be. His hip had an avulsion fracture, and that psoas is tight, and the connective tissue is tight. So his knee is trying to do the best that it can. If you look at your knee, okay, we think about our knees going forward and back, which they do. As I bend and get all the way to straight, there is a little bit of rotation that happens. So as I push and lock out to straight, I rotate a little bit at the end. As I go to bend, I rotate a little bit. So for him, when he goes to change direction and that hip has to load and that foot has to collapse, we get rotation at his knee. We're tight and stuck and inefficient in both of those places. So that little bit of rotation, we're getting stuck there, and he's getting a little twinge with it. So his concern is he's had a little twinge before in his hip, right? A little while before he ended up with the avulsion fracture. He had a twinge in his foot right before he ended up with his foot falling apart. So yes, he's sensitive to this, starts to feel weird, and then the wheels fall off the bus. The good news is we know why, and so we need him to move better rotationally through his hip and through his foot so that we get less torque on his knee, and that's what we're working on. Strength has improved, mobility has improved. It's that subtle, like I have to load and rotate at high speeds that we need to clean up for him. So he's moving in the right direction. He'll be great by football. But like that's where we're at. So I will shoot you this in an email, and then also what time. I think I had a cancellation this morning when I got to work. So I do have a hole if you want to give me a call and discuss any of this. Thanks.